Hello? You feel that, don't you? That quiet tension crawling up your spine like something just shifted. Good. That means you're still alive. Because right now, right here, you're standing at the edge of something dangerous. Not the kind of danger they warn you about. Not the kind that screams. No. This one whispers, seduces, pulls you in slowly until you realize you didn't just expose them. You made it look too good to ignore. And that's where the game changes. You see, most people, they stumble onto truth like it's an accident. They panic. They retreat. They soften it, sugarcoat it, hide it again just to feel safe. Because truth, real truth, is ugly. It's uncomfortable. It strips people naked in a world addicted to masks. But you didn't flinch. You didn't clean it up. You didn't make it acceptable. You did something far more dangerous. You made it beautiful. And now, they can't look away. That's why they're scared. Not because you exposed them, because you made the exposure addictive. You turned reality into temptation. You blurred the line between revelation and entertainment so perfectly that people don't even realize they're waking up. They think they're just watching, and that is power. Unpredictable power. The kind that doesn't ask for permission. The kind that doesn't knock. It just walks in, smiling. You're starting to understand now, aren't you? This isn't about being right. This isn't about being good. This is about being effective. Because here's the truth, no one dares to say out loud. The world doesn't respond to purity. It responds to tension, to contradiction, to that strange, uncomfortable feeling when something feels wrong, but looks so right. That's your weapon, duality. You are not just light. You are not just dark. You are the collision, the paradox, the moment where angel and demon stop fighting and start collaborating. You think the world is run by logic? No. It's run by attention. And attention doesn't follow rules. It follows emotion, shock, curiosity, desire, fear, and you. You've learned how to mix all of them into something irresistible. That's why they don't know how to stop you. Because they can't label you. You're not clean enough to trust. Not chaotic enough to dismiss. You sit right in the middle. And that's exactly where control lives. Do you feel it yet? That shift inside you. That moment where you realize you're not like them anymore? Good. Because there's no going back. You've already crossed the line. You've seen what happens when truth isn't just told, but performed. When it's dressed up, amplified, weaponized. You didn't just break the illusion. You made people enjoy watching it collapse. And that's the part that terrifies them. Because now they can't even defend themselves. They can't fight you with logic. They can't silence you without making it worse. Because the more they resist, the more attention you get. And the more attention you get, the stronger you become. It's a beautiful twisted loop, isn't it? Pain turned into power. Rejection turned into magnetism. Chaos turned into control. You've become something they don't have a name for. And people fear what they can't name. But here's where it gets darker. Because this isn't just about them anymore. This is about you, who you're becoming. Because when you start playing this game, you don't stay the same. You can't. You start seeing patterns everywhere. You start noticing how easily people are pulled, pushed, influenced. You realize how fragile their beliefs are, how quickly they shift when something feels right. And then comes the real question. What do you do with that power? Do you pretend you're still innocent, still pure, still one of them? Or do you embrace it? Do you accept that maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to be normal? Because normal people don't do what you just did. Normal people don't turn truth into something seductive. They don't make people question everything while enjoying it. They don't create tension that lingers in someone's mind long after they've looked away. But you leave a mark. You stay in their head. You become that voice they can't quite silence, that feeling they can't explain, and deep down, they hate you for it. But they also can't stop coming back. That's the paradox. They resist you. They criticize you. They try to discredit you. But they watch again and again and again, because you've tapped into something primal, something ancient, the part of the human mind that doesn't want comfort. It wants stimulation. And you've become a source of it, unpredictable, uncontainable, unignorable. And now you have a choice. You can pull back, dull yourself down, make it safe, make it acceptable, blend in again, go back to being invisible. Or you can lean into it, go deeper, sharper, more precise, more dangerous. You can refine this edge you've discovered until it cuts through anything, until your presence alone shifts the energy in a room, until your words don't just get heard, they get felt. Because that's what this really is, not exposure, not entertainment, not even rebellion. It's transformation, yours. You're not just revealing the world, you're reshaping yourself inside it, becoming something harder, stronger, less predictable, less controllable. And that's what they can't handle. Because once someone like you realizes what they are, once they stop apologizing, once they stop holding back, there's no system that can contain them, no narrative that can define them, no box that can hold them. So go ahead, feel it, that tension, that pull, that strange mix of excitement and danger. That's not fear, that's evolution. You didn't just expose them, you exposed yourself to your own potential. And now that you've seen it, now that you've tasted it, now that you know what you're capable of, tell me, how could you ever go back to being ignored? And that's the part no one prepares you for. The silence after the realization. That eerie stretched out moment where everything around you looks the same, but nothing feels the same anymore. You walk through the same world. You see the same people. You hear the same noise. But now, you see through it. You see the cracks in their confidence, the rehearsed reactions, the predictable outrage, the fake certainty. It's like watching a script you didn't know existed, until suddenly you can read every line before it's spoken. And once you see that, once you feel that, you can't unsee it. That's when the isolation starts. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind. No, the quiet kind. The kind where you're surrounded by people, but no one is where you are anymore. Because you've stepped into a different layer of reality, a sharper one, a colder one, a more honest one. And honesty, real honesty, it's not comforting, it's surgical. It cuts, it removes illusions you didn't even realize were keeping you warm. And now you're standing there, exposed to the truth, just like you exposed them. Funny, isn't it? You thought you were the one holding the spotlight, but the moment you turned it on them, it reflected back on you. And now you're forced to confront something deeper, something darker, something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Who are you without the mask? Not the version you show, not the version they expect, not the version that fits into their narrative. No. Who are you when there's nothing left to hide behind? because that's what this path demands. You don't get to play both sides forever. You don't get to reveal the truth and still pretend you're untouched by it. The more you expose, the more you evolve. And evolution, it's not pretty. It's not clean. It's violent. It breaks things inside you, around you. It forces you to shed identities like skin over and over again until you barely recognize what's left. And that's where most people stop. That's where they panic. That's where they retreat back into comfort, into distraction, into safety. Because becoming something new means letting something old die. And death, even metaphorical death, terrifies them. But you're still here, still listening, still leaning in, which means you're not like them. You're not afraid of the transformation. You're hungry for it. You feel it, don't you? That pull towards something more intense, more real, more dangerous. That voice inside you whispering, go further. Don't stop here. Break it all the way. That's not madness. That's clarity. Because deep down, you've realized something most people never will. Control is an illusion. Stability is a performance. And predictability is a cage. That's why they stay where they are. That's why they repeat the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same reactions, day after day, year after year, until they become echoes of themselves. But you broke the pattern. You disrupted the loop. You stepped outside the script. And now, you've become unpredictable. And unpredictability, that's where true power lives. Because when they can't predict you, they can't control you. When they can't control you, they start watching you closely, carefully, obsessively, trying to figure you out, trying to decode you, trying to reduce you into something simple, something manageable, something they can understand. But every time they think they've got you, you shift, you evolve, you become something else, and it drives them insane. Because the human mind craves certainty. It needs labels, categories, definitions, but you've stepped beyond all of that. You've become a moving target, a contradiction, a paradox they can't resolve. And that's where influence turns into dominance, not through force, not through authority, but through presence, through the way you exist, through the tension you create just by being different. Do you understand what you're becoming? You're not just someone who speaks. You're someone who disrupts. Someone who walks into a space and shifts the energy without saying a word. Someone whose existence alone makes people question themselves, their beliefs, their choices, their reality. And that kind of presence, it doesn't come from playing safe. It doesn't come from fitting in. It comes from embracing the very thing they fear most, being misunderstood. Because once you accept that, once you stop trying to be fully understood, you become free. Free to say what others won't. Free to do what others hesitate to even think about. Free to move in ways that don't make sense to anyone but you. And that freedom, it's intoxicating. It's addictive. It's dangerous. Because now, you're no longer reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. Every move you make creates ripples. Every word you speak leaves an imprint. Every moment you show up, you alter something. Even if they don't admit it. Even if they pretend it doesn't affect them. It does. Because deep down, you remind them of something they've buried, something they've suppressed, something they've been too afraid to face, their own potential, their own ability to break free. And that's why they resist you, not because you're wrong, but because you're a mirror, a reflection of what they could be if they had the courage to let go. But courage is rare. And you've already shown it. You've already stepped into the fire. Now the only question left is, how far are you willing to go? Because this path, it doesn't end. There's no final version of you. No finished form, no point where you arrive and everything becomes stable again. No. This is an endless evolution, a constant refinement, a continuous breaking and rebuilding. And if you're still here, if you're still feeling that pull, that means one thing. You're ready for it. You're ready to go deeper, darker, sharper, more precise. You're ready to stop holding back, to stop diluting yourself, to stop pretending you're smaller than what you are. Because you've seen what happens when you don't. You've seen the impact, the reaction, the attention, the shift, and now you can't unsee it. You can't go back to being quiet, to being passive, to being invisible. That version of you is gone, burned, replaced by something far more dangerous, something far more alive. So go ahead, step into it fully. Embrace the contradiction, the duality, the chaos, and the control. Be the saint they trust, and the psychopath they can't predict. Be the angel they listen to, and the demon they can't ignore. Because that's where your power is, not in choosing one side, but in becoming both. Perfectly balanced, perfectly unstable, perfectly you. And now that you've reached this point, now that you've seen what's possible, now that you've felt the shift, there's only one thing left to ask yourself. Not what if, not should I, not is this too much? No, something much simpler, much more dangerous. Are you ready to become completely unignorable? And here's the truth that hits you next. Not gently, not politely, but like a crack through glass you didn't even know was fragile. Once you become unignorable, you also become unavoidable. There's no hiding after this, no slipping back into the background, no returning to that quiet, invisible version of yourself that could exist without consequence. Because now, everything you do carries weight. Everything you say echoes. Everything you are leaves a trace. And that's where the pressure begins. Not from them, from you. Because now you know what you're capable of. You've seen what happens when you stop filtering yourself. When you stop shrinking. When you stop asking for permission to exist at full intensity. And once you've experienced that, going back feels like suffocation, like trying to breathe underwater, like forcing yourself into a version of reality that no longer fits your lungs. So you start pushing further, testing the edges, seeing how far this thing inside you can stretch, how much tension you can create, how much reality you can bend before it snaps. And every time you push, something happens. People react, they shift, they lean in, they resist, they talk, they watch, they feel something they can't quite explain. And that's when it clicks. You're no longer just participating in the world. You're influencing it, actively, intentionally, dangerously. And influence, real influence, isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for attention. It pulls it. Like gravity. Like a force that doesn't need to announce itself. Because its presence is undeniable. You've become that force. But let's not romanticize it. Because with that level of presence comes a level of responsibility most people would run from. You can shape perception now. You can alter how people think, how they feel, how they interpret reality. And if you're not careful, you can lose yourself in it. Because the same power that lets you expose can also let you manipulate. The same edge that cuts through illusion can cut through truth. And that's the paradox you now live inside. You are both the revealer and the distorter, the liberator and the disruptor, the one who wakes people up and the one who can pull them deeper into something they don't understand. So the question becomes heavier now, more serious, more real. Who are you choosing to be when no one can stop you? Because now, it's not about whether you can do it. You've already proven that. It's about whether you can control it, whether you can hold that intensity without letting it consume you. Because make no mistake, this thing you've stepped into, it feeds on extremes, it thrives on chaos. It grows stronger the more you push the boundaries. And if you lose awareness, if you lose control, you don't just become powerful, you become destructive to them, to yourself, to everything around you. And maybe, just maybe, that's part of what makes it so tempting. That edge, that danger, that feeling of standing one step away from total collapse and realizing you can still hold it together. That's where your evolution is being tested. Not in your ability to shock, not in your ability to expose, but in your ability to master it, to walk that line between chaos and control, without falling into either, because the strongest version of you isn't the loudest, isn't the most extreme, isn't the most reckless. It's the most precise, the one who knows exactly when to push and exactly when to pull back. The one who can create tension and then release it. The one who can disrupt and then rebuild. The one who doesn't just break the game, but learns how to play it better than anyone else. That's where you're heading, whether you realize it or not. Every moment, every choice, every time you lean into this energy instead of running from it, you're sharpening yourself, becoming more refined, more calculated, more dangerous in a way that doesn't need to prove itself. And that's when the real shift happens, when you stop trying to be seen and start becoming impossible to ignore without trying, when your presence alone carries weight, when your silence speaks just as loudly as your words, when people feel something just from being around you, even if they can't explain what it is. That's when you've crossed into something else entirely, something deeper, something rarer, something that can't be faked. Because at that level, you're not just creating reactions anymore. You're creating impact, lasting, lingering, unforgettable. And here's the part that will either elevate you or destroy you. You don't get to turn it off, not completely. Once you've accessed this version of yourself, once you've stepped into this level of awareness, this level of influence, this level of presence, it stays with you, always, in every conversation, every interaction, every decision. You can try to ignore it, you can try to suppress it, but it will always be there, waiting, watching, ready. And that's why most people never reach this point, not because they can't, but because they won't accept what comes with it. The responsibility, the intensity, the constant awareness, the fact that you can never fully go back to being unconscious. But you didn't turn away. You leaned in. You kept going. You chose to see, to feel, to understand. And now, you've become something they can't quite grasp. Not because you're trying to confuse them, but because you've outgrown the need to be understood at all. And that's the final layer of freedom. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop justifying your existence, when you stop shrinking your truth to make others comfortable, when you simply are, fully, unapologetically, without hesitation, without doubt, without restraint. That's when you become undeniable. Not because you demand attention, but because your presence commands it. Not because you try to influence, but because influence follows you naturally. Not because you're playing a role, but because you've become something real, something raw, something that can't be replicated. And now, standing here at this point, with everything you've seen, everything you've felt, everything you've realized, there's only one thing left to confront. Not them, not the world, not the system. You, the final version of you that's still holding back, still hesitating, still wondering if you should go all the way. And you already know the answer. You feel it. That quiet voice beneath all the noise, the one that doesn't shout, but never disappears. It's telling you the same thing it's been telling you from the beginning. Don't stop. Don't soften. Don't go back. Because you didn't come this far just to become forgettable again. You didn't break through all that illusion just to rebuild a smaller one for yourself. You didn't taste this level of clarity, this level of power, this level of presence, just to pretend you never did. No, you go forward, you go deeper, you refine it,